tell us a bit. Let's start talking about that
look,
book. Let's chat.
Here's one of the so this is a monster I'm showing up. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you'll be able to see the monster on your screen, which is called the Hangry Snargler, which has that's a monster which encourages a ferocious appetite for work and people taking on too much.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with that is, as you've said, Nigel, is that often that means critical processes are in the hands of just a few people.
Oh, God, yeah.
And ultimately, that means the business isn't really secure long term, because if you take away that person,
yeah,
which could happen, because what, you know, if nothing else we've learned from the last couple of years is how volatile everything is and how things can just change quickly. I had a podcast interview scheduled 2 days ago, and I was just about to start it, and I had to go to the hospital with my child, and my child is fine.
Yeah.
But you just never know when things are going to happen. So if you're not planning for these kind of random events in your business and for people to cover for other people, your business isn't as secure, and it's also not as scalable, because everything's bottlenecking the whole time. It's always got to go through those one or two people.
I always talk about the random bus scenario. If I'm talking to a client or one of the management team or one of the team and go, right, we've agreed it, brilliant, we're happy. I'll ping you an email just so we're all clear on it, just in case we get the random bus. If I get hit by a bus and then you've got an agreement with me, and then everyone can. So I just use the random bus scenario is my scenario. It's that was before the last few years, which were you've even got those which are kind of even more doomsayer, aren't they? Really, they can be. But you're right, you don't know, and those bottlenecks are awful, because people and the thing is, those people tend to do it. I don't know if this is where you get it from, is get the same sort of view, is they do it out of quite a lot of people sit there thinking, well, those are the people, the knowledge is key, knowledge is power. And I don't think most people, there will get a small number of people who think, well, I'm going to keep this to myself. I'm not going to show anyone else, because that means I'm secure in my job and I'm okay. People don't think like that, not the majority. The majority of people are going, it just needs to be done. We've got to get it done. This is important, and I'll do it, sort it. And they're not trying to be a hero. They're just being a servant to the business a lot of the time. And they're taking on it, and they're doing it, and they are that critical linchpin. And I'm too busy to give someone else coaching to do it, because I need to make sure it's right. And it's out of a positive intent, but it's such a negative, wider position, isn't it?
Yes, because also what's happening then is we're taking opportunities away from other people. For example, let's say you run a meeting and a new project, maybe an interesting project has come in, and the leader goes, who wants to be involved or run this? And then just the same people stick up their hands quickly and grab hold of it. Well, it's, you know, the same projects are always going to the same people. They're always having the same learning experiences, and the other people aren't having those. And also something else you might then be building into your business, if this keeps happening, is a loss of diversity and a loss of, a broader depth of ideas to come, because sometimes the quieter people also have valuable ideas to share, but they're just a bit more hesitant or slow about sharing them.
Yeah, I think when I've been running workshops, I'm trying to do solutioning and things like that. Or I've been involved in stuff. I know I'm gobby. Yeah, I've got a podcast so I can talk. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, I like to hear my own voice. And I do have a lot of stupid ideas, and I'll throw them out there, and I don't mind them being stupid ideas, because it's that whole thing of 100 stupid ideas, one great one. I'm looking for my great one, but I'll find it eventually. But I think and someone of my own can be a little outspoken, and others may, as you say, not want to chip in. And I it's hard, but I sometimes consciously think, actually, I know the answer to this. I need to keep my gob shut, or I've got an idea on this. I need to keep my gob shut, because someone else might have a better idea, and let the room breathe, sort of thing, rather than jump in and with that. And then if nothing is forthcoming, then I can kind of, well, I got this idea. But sometimes it is that eagerness to, I've got a great idea, and that character trait of being, and And it is that I'm a big, and I don't know if you're aware of it, there's a model called the DISC model, which is the 4-quadrant model, and I'm a big fan of that because I love the simplicity of it, and simple's great for me. And that whole thing of those high I's and high D's, and it's the high I's going, potentially being quite persuasive with an idea, and people go, "Oh yeah, that sounds all right," even if it's not particularly good. And the high D is so directive, and we've got to do it this way. Again, they're convincing, and the others will listen. And you got the other guys, the high C's, who are super analytical, who actually probably know the answer better than either of those two. They have a much better grasp of what's really happening in the actual, if it's a transactional type thing. And then you got those high S's who, if it's about people, they will absolutely know better than those others around what people's really feeling in an organization. So you lose those super analytical and that super in touch with the organizational's sort of motivations and things like that, just because these two are louder.
Which is interesting, because this like segues into an idea around communication and about soft skills within a business. So people are trained in things like technology, or maybe project management tools, or other more, traditional qualifications. But not a lot of people are trained in things like communication, or shutting up for 5 minutes so someone else can get a word in, or listening, or being able to actually really listen to someone. These so-called soft skills are massively important, and I might even argue they're just as important as the professional qualifications.
They're more important. They're much more important, because it's about human interaction, and everything is about human interaction. The fact that we're talking here, the fact that we're doing stuff here, we're using it. Your camera is working brilliantly. It's lovely. You've got great lighting on there. Your skills in the video industry, better than mine, as we proved earlier when I couldn't get my green screen to work properly. Which sounds silly, but yeah, I understand what I'm talking about. Actually, this conversation is the important part. What we're communicating is the important part, not the video, the audio, tools, the techniques of doing it. It's some of our knowledge there, but it's this conversation and this human communication that is important. And those are the bits that go wrong. You use a tool like an email, you send someone an email, they read it with an emphasis of different, like, again, I'm sure I've said this multiple times, but I love it, is I never said she stole the milk phrase. You've got a blank phrase there. And if you say, I never said she stole the milk, you're inferring someone else is. I never said she stole the milk, you're inferring you didn't say she did, it's someone else. And you've got and on an email, you don't know where the emphasis is, and you add that emphasis, and then that communication breaks down, because you're going, oh, they're being arsey. Or on, when I gave my daughter, when she first started using WhatsApp and text messages, I said, and that exact conversation went through that with her, of going, each of those emphasis, and go, remember, every time you read that, you're doing that. You can't stop yourself doing it. And it's all through your own lens, isn't it? And actually, me as a project manager, being trained as a project manager, yeah, I know how to do a risk register. I know how to do risk management. I know how to do all the estimating tooling and all those different things. Yeah, I know I should create this and all this in process. But actually, most of my job is talking to a customer, to a team member, to another peer about about getting something done. And it's people get it done, not the processes, not the tooling, not the skills. And maybe that's my role's a bit different, but again, if you're completely autonomous and doing your own bit of work, creating something's pointless if you're not creating the right thing for someone else. And then those soft skills is where you work out whether that's the right thing.
Yeah, the soft skills are so important. The way I like to think about it is this, is imagine your business is a spaceship, right? And you're going through space and you're heading towards your goals. But what you don't realize is that there are all these monsters on board your spaceship, stalking your team members and dragging down their skills at things like communication, or being able to regulate their emotions, or having good habits. And these might seem like small things, but when you add them up, they can make a huge impact to individual performance and then the performance of the whole team. And so we really need to open our eyes to these monsters being present. And I just want to be clear here. I'm not referring to monsters as individuals in your business. They're about these bigger ideas and challenges and opportunities within a business that if you can face up to them and take them on, you can achieve so much more with your business. I think of just all the energy that's wasted because people are miscommunicating by email and, you know, cheesing off each other a little bit. And then that like could ripple on for a couple of weeks until eventually people warm up to each other again. And these things happen all the time. So we need to face up to these so-called softer skills, and these performance monsters exist, and they're not related to traditional skills. They're in these other areas that are really important that we face up to and get over. And I will also tell you why people need to do it as well. Why they should start facing up to these monsters is because we live in this world of hyper change and challenge where nothing is predictable, everything changes. And so for your business to survive and thrive in that, you can't just have an okay business. You need a stronger business where people are more adaptable. They can better deal with challenges and you know, hard situations. And also you can improve the productivity, because I've been speaking this week with a bunch of businesses who are moving to 4-day weeks, and they're trying to work out how they can stay as productive while they do that. Well, one of the ways you can stay as productive and give people 4-day weeks is remove all those inefficiencies in communication and personal challenges, which are actually secretly dragging down the business performance.
Yeah, I think it's the death of a thousand cuts scenario, isn't it? It's not. I had a recent conversation about productivity and about tooling and about how some tooling, it can be perceived, if you look at a piece of tooling, you've got a very small inefficiency in it, and you've got to do something, copy something from here, retype it from there, whatever it is. And it costs a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. But then you've got a couple of minutes just to double check. There's every so often there's an error, there's a typo, it's not quite right, the numbers don't add up. And then that costs a problem down here. And then you start spreading that. You've got one person who's doing that, but maybe that's a tool that everyone's using. You've got 200, 300, 400 people who are using that tool who have the same sort of thing. And then you aggregate that errors that potentially come in there, those minutes that those people are using, and they drop out into that. And then your organization, and suddenly you look at it and you start scaling up the cost of time, scale up the cost of rework. And you look at it and you got, that's 3 people's jobs of extra time, or actually 9 times out of 10, that's 3 people's worth of work that all of these people are doing a little bit extra somewhere later on, going home a little bit later, having a shorter lunch or whatever. And you can't, it isn't visible, but it erodes and it undermines and it breaks down the organization. And that's where I think that that's what I'm getting from this, is that those hidden things in there, inefficiencies, whether it be personal relationship efficiency, whether it be tooling efficiencies, that just kick the crap out of your business. And if you can get rid of all of that and give people the time, and as you say, when you get a misunderstanding on an email, when people haven't got the time necessarily to pick up the phone and go, "You're right, sorry, I didn't mean that," bang, done. Because we don't pick up the phone much now, especially now in this post-pandemic era. It's kind of occasionally Teams calls where it's groups of people, but the one-to-one phone calls, I do it through a Teams chat, but it's quite often it's not as often. But I try to do more now where it's kind of, I'm getting confused here, phone. It's kind of, rather than trying to do it by thing. And I think if you're a team in a co-located team, and I don't believe that co-location is the answer, I don't believe fully remote is the answer, there's something in between. But that co-located team, you bump into Joe Bloggs, who he thinks you're an idiot because of what you've written on an email by the coffee machine. Go, "Well, I'm very happy with that email. Why? What's the matter? Oh no, I didn't mean that. Oh, right, cool." And it's finished, it's gone, and it isn't festering for 2 weeks because you bumped into each other at the coffee shop. At the coffee counter. These days, it might be 3 months before you bump into that same person these days, because you haven't been into the office, or you've been in and they've been on a different day. And those resolution steps that happen aren't there as often now, are they? So it's even more important to think, hang on, as an organization, kind of think, how do we solve these people interactions? How do we make it clearer and have less of these misunderstandings?
Yeah, it's massively important that we try and keep communication as human as possible.
Yeah.
And I try not to put anything contentious into an email. In fact, I'll just deliberately avoid that. And I would rather send a voice note or video recording, or just try and jump on a call if I can, a video call, because there's so much right now we're expressing to each other through body language, which you can't get in an email.
No, you can't.
And it's so easy. Even if you think you've used the 100% the correct words, it doesn't always matter, because if the person's having a bad day or they've had something else happen, they could just read your email and just jump to a conclusion, a negative conclusion about it. Yeah. So we do have to be mindful of our communication and just how other people perceive our communication as well. But that there's also a mindset here thing as well, of kind of the toxicity of general culture as well. You know, you've only got to go on Twitter and see people ripping into each other and going, why did you say that? Why did you do that? There's this general vibe of people like finding reasons to fall apart. So one of the things we can do as leaders is help our team members get a better mindset and start looking for the good in other people and looking for commonalities and overlap, and not focus on the differences so much.
Yeah, and it kind of, you just made me think, I've got a session with my team next week. We've got a workshop, and I usually like to try and do something a bit different at the beginning, icebreaker kind of scenario. But I think I might use that. I never said she stole the milk as an exercise for the team, to all of them write down a one sentence about who stole the milk.
Yeah, well, I think blame is such a toxic culture to have in a business. And actually, it's one of the first ones that I talk about in the business, because I think if you're starting off with your business not being in a strong position, then the place where you're probably going to start out with it is having some degree of blame culture within it. And there's the blame blob showing on the screen right now. So that's one of the monsters in the book. And just to be clear, in my book, I'm not just introducing these monsters, I'm also giving actionable steps for how to overcome them. But yeah, people point, this is something that happened a lot in the film industry, because there is those high stakes and high money. People pointing fingers and going, why did this happen? Why did that happen? And people shirking. Yeah, people either being negative and not being in a learning mode, which is, I think, the mode that we need to be in. Stuff happens. There's going to be mistakes, right? That's just the nature of business and us as humans. If you add complex things together in humans, there's going to be mistakes and things are going to get missed. But when we jump from something bad happening into finger pointing, it's never positive. It's never helping. It's never helping us move forward. But it all too often, unfortunately, happens in the wrong culture. So yeah, I think that's definitely a sign of a not very strong business, and a business that starts to really need to think about how it's working together as a team, and how the team members can just change their mindset towards each other.
Yeah.
But that doesn't. But I would say blame doesn't just come from an individual, right? It doesn't just come because I've got a bad mindset and I've come into this business with a bad mindset. It can also be something that's encouraged by the business itself. Yeah. So if you have like a hyper competitive business where it's actually in my interest to outperform you, right? Because it's going to make a big difference in the money I earn or getting a tasty promotion, then it might be in my interest to undermine you and keep pointing out to the boss what you've done wrong.
Yeah. And that's not a good place to be, is it? Because you want, if you want the whole thing to be doing well, you want those people to go, hey dude, you've cocked up here. sort it out, rather than saying, oh, they've cocked up, oh good, because it does create that where you go, yeah, I can help, I did this, sorted. So their ship rises, and they help each other. Whereas if you blame one, it's that cycle down, isn't it? You spiral down into having to go at each other. And I think sometimes some organizations, depending on what kind of organization they are, whether they be public, whether they be FTSE or NASDAQ, and they have the 3-month windows or whatever, or what's going on in the political or their share price, whatever, can affect that amount of knee-jerk of going, it's not my fault, because people are under attack, and they become defensive, and either they build, I say, all these blame cultures, or they build so much governance and structure and due diligence in that it stifles the work.
Yeah, that can be a problem. I mean, you can have a Titanic moment.
Yeah.
Which is in Titanic, where some people were selfish and kept other people away from the lifeboats because the ship's going down and they want to save themselves. And right now there's some companies out there who are looking to slash jobs. And in those companies, if the leaders aren't careful, it's going to encourage a culture of people pushing each other overboard and pointing out mistakes to make that happen. So we need to be mindful of these things all the time, because maybe even if there are layoffs happening in a business, let's not make things worse by making the culture really horrible while those things are happening as well. Like, let's at least do this in a dignified, human way.
Yeah, I've been through, 3-4 redundancy sort of phases, and in organizations, and none of them have been. Actually, one of them was managed quite well, because it was the managers within the organization were sensible, the people who were doing the transition, and they did something they were people focused rather than organizational focused. Some of the others have been quite brutal, I've seen. Both me experience redundancy and seeing people who have been made redundant on teams and stuff. So it's a hard area, and to be able to maintain, and I do think whilst you, as an organization, the organizations will sit there and go, I don't want to do this so much. The approach of voluntary redundancy means that you potentially lose some of your top performers, because they think, oh, I can get a role there and I can do that and I'm ready for change. Actually, then what that does create is a bunch of people who have left because they wanted to, and the people who remain have stayed because they wanted to, rather than feeling, oh, I was under threat. It gets a nicer balance in that. But I imagine there's a whole raft of publications on the psychology of redundancy and things like that on both organization and people and all that sort of thing. And it's funny, just looping around to the blame thing. I think I pinged you a message on it, if I remember right. There's a podcast that Cornelius Fieschner does called the PM podcast, and it's a very very brilliant podcast. Even though it's kind of in the same realm, he approaches things very differently. And he had a podcast a few years ago around April the 1st, which was where you have, obviously, project management, you've got change management, risk management, all these different processes. He had blame management, and it was an April Fool's thing, but it was a full analysis of how in an organization you put together your blame management plan. So when you've got a project, and when the project doesn't go right, okay, you identify your potential blamees, who you're going to blame, and what they would do, and which bits, and kind of which bits where you'd need to. And this, I was absolutely howling with laughter listening to it in the car one day when I was listening to it, and it's just but the thing that was sad and funny at the same time is that you've seen people do you can maybe not as conscious, but subconsciously doing that. Hang on a minute, this is going tits up. Who am I lining people up there, or making sure people are copied in on something to make sure that they were aware and should have done something, and which never works for me because I never read me copied emails, but that's another subject for me. And it just, that it was the blame thing. It's very interesting when that blame Bob thing is. I can imagine that can tear down a business really quickly if everyone starts doing it.
Oh, you end up with having people only linked by contractual obligations and nothing else holding them together. So, I mean, this is the great thing why the film industry has been such a learning experience for me, because I was in some teams for a longer time, but some teams I'd be with for a week at a time. And so you go through all these phases of business growth and collapse and success and failure really quickly. And I'll share one experience of blame that I had. I went to do this car commercial for a company out in Malta. They've got a beautiful infinity tank there where you can put the camera down low. You have your boat in the tank and it looks like you're shooting all the way out to sea. Now, this was supposed to be a night shoot. Do you know when we went to shoot this? Guess when?
6 a.m.
Summer solstice, right? That's the time. That's the time
the
of the year.
The shortest day.
That's right. They scheduled it over the shortest days of the year, shooting this night shoot in Malta. It's just crazy. So the whole thing was a little bit doomed from day one. Because of that. And I actually wrote beforehand. I wrote them a report, and I was like, "Well, these are the things that need to happen for this project to be a success." I gave them the schedule, and then they came up to me when things were going wrong during the shoot. I mean, this is one of these times in my life when I didn't actually have a choice about whether to take the project or not. I was contracted with another business. We were doing it. I'd consulted, given the best forecast and approach possible. Whether you take it or not, I can't control. I can't control that. But then I was there on the shoot, and they were like, "Why did you write this long report and tell us about all the problems? It's all your fault." And it's just like, it's just hilarious. Like so basically you're having a go at me for writing the report that told you about all this stuff that was going to happen if we didn't allow enough time and X, Y, and Z. And it's just, people will naturally find a way to blame whoever they can in these situations.
Self-preservation, isn't
it? It's self-preservation, but there's also something else going on. A lot of people, and I think this is true for an enormous amount of people, haven't yet taken ownership of their lives. And this is why my slogan is have courage, own your future, take action, because owning your life and your future is crucial for personal growth and getting beyond things like blame. So if we start understanding and accepting that we determine our results, then we stop blaming for others and we look at what we can do to make situations better. And I think that's a crucial thing. And I think there'll be people in your business who probably look at where they are in life right now and see it not as a result of their own ideas and hard work, but they'll see it all as being someone else's responsibility. This kind of idea that I am a victim in life and situations are thrust upon me. So we need to help people move beyond that idea and help people see that they are protagonists in their own movie. This is your movie. Grasp it with both hands, be that leading actor and make your own future, own that future.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think it just, you see that ownership of your errors, ownership of your successes, treat them as a little bit of luck from somewhere else. And there's very few people who have no choices out there. Certainly you will have people who are in situations like in Europe at the moment, or situations with COVID that you can't control, and it isn't that, but there's much smaller minority than the most of us who are in a situation where we can make a decision to change something that's going on that we're not happy with. Now, there's a risk involved, there's a discomfort involved, but we can choose to do it. There is that entitlement you see out there, and you mentioned Twitter earlier, and I avoid Twitter quite a lot because I just get grumpy with reading the stuff that's on there, and just kind of, I don't engage, but it doesn't most of the time it doesn't uplift my day by looking at that. So
but then again, I suppose there's an opportunity. I mean, I'm not doing Twitter too much right now because I'm just spread too thin. So I'm not really doing it too much. So if you want to connect with me, head over to LinkedIn, search for Andrew Ball, that's with a U, and I'll be glad to connect with you. But what I try and do is be positive and bring people together and find and we can explore ideas, and I'm interested in hearing other people's perspectives, but I don't go on there trying to find reasons to disagree with people or to start some kind of conflict. And I think we can all be leaders in these spaces by being positive and acting like that. And that's the only way these spaces will get better. Is if we lead by example.
That's a fair point. That's a fair challenge to me to maybe engage a bit more in there. Yeah, I'm similar to you. LinkedIn seems to be my main area. So on that point, we're coming up on the hour, plus the extra bits for me and my technical problems. So I'm really appreciative of you giving me so much time. A couple of things. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that you didn't mention? And then if not, there's how can people, you mentioned LinkedIn, but how can people find out more about the book? Have you got the book there to wave in front so we can see the front page so people might be able to recognize it and things like that?
I'll hold up the book.
There we go.
It's called Monsters of Team Performance. You can only find it on my website right now, which is InterstellarWay.Life. That's InterstellarWay.Life. And it's designed to be a really easy. Sorry, if you're listening, this won't make an awful lot of sense to you, but I'll do my best to describe it. But this book is designed to be really easy to get through. So there's lots of illustrations, not too many words, because I know business leaders and owners are overwhelmed. We don't have time to read tons of books. So this book's a bit different in that you can get through it really quickly and then just dig a bit deeper. If you get the book and you find a monster, triggers something in you, that you can then dig deeper into that monster and find out steps to overcome it. If you don't mind, I might just read one small section.
Fire away.
Which I think is relevant because of what I think is the brave new world we're living in. So coronavirus has changed the way we work, right? It's taken us from the office and into these hybrid workplaces. But things have always been changing. Once we were foraging around for berries in the forest.
I still do.
Sloves, right? If you can find them. And then we've gone into factories and out and so on. But now things are changing again, and we live in this what I consider since COVID. What I consider is the brave new world, where challenge is hyper. Everything is changing around us. We're dealing with hyperinflation. 1 minute there's too many people looking for jobs, then the next minute people are probably going to be laid off. Everything is just in flux the whole time. We've got the collapse of work-life boundaries, fragmentation of the workspace. Maybe my son's going to run in behind me any minute now. All these challenges, and we've got mental health challenges. Right, we've got the NHS are forecasting like a tidal wave of mental health challenges, and I know you mentioned you've had some challenges, Nigel, and I think all of us in one way or another have had some challenges. I developed tinnitus over the last year, so we've all got things to deal with. So what the picture I'm trying to paint is that this world is in flux. This world is this hyper change world, and to be better prepared for it, leaders need to face up to that. We can't just think, oh, it's business as usual. This isn't. We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy. We've things have moved forward. So we're in this brave new world, and business leaders can either retreat and try and pretend things are different, or if things are still the same, and try and just keep their team, for example, locked in their office, don't offer them hybrid working, and not face up to these hyper challenges. Or if you're a bit smarter, you probably think, oh, actually, everything is a bit more funky these days. We've got to start really reevaluating how we do stuff. And the way that I think leaders need to do that is by moving to a brave new workplace, a new way of their team coming together. So I think you do that by accepting the new workplace exists, and then by unlocking the potential of your team, because you can't afford to create, if you want to go from a 5-day week to a 4-day week, you're not going to be able to afford to do that if you're just producing the same amount of stuff and you're just billing the same amount. How can you do it? You've got to unlock the potential of your team. And I think the way you do that is by upskilling your team members, which is all one big pitch for saying how basically I can provide workshops, or maybe even not with me, but let's say if you were to come to me, I could help you skill your team so you can better create this brave new workplace and face these challenges. And you can learn all about that on my website, InterstellarWay.Life. Just shoot me a message over there and I'll be glad to talk to you about it. But if you want to do it with me, then find another trainer or expert to help you level up your team, because it's going to make the world of difference to you, your team members, and their communities around them as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for giving me so much time today. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I'm sure what I'll do, I'll put links into the book and the website and all that sort of stuff for people to grab a copy, and the LinkedIn into the show notes. So all I've got to say really is thank you, Andrew, and have a brilliant rest of your day.
Thank you, Nigel. Really loved all of this.
Cheers. Wow, you made it this far. I'm guessing that you enjoyed the show if you have, or maybe you've just left it playing in the background and forgot it was on. But if you did enjoy it and you're inclined to, I'd be delighted if you could share the show with your colleagues. It's discoverability with podcasts is quite difficult, especially with a niche one like this. But sharing with your colleagues and letting them have a chance to listen to these fantastic guests would be brilliant. If you've got time, a review on whatever platform you listen to it on would be great too, especially if it's a 5-star one. Again, that makes it easier for people to discover the show when they're searching on there, because the comments raise it up the old search engine optimization on all the different tools. If you are feeling flush, I have a couple of ways you could contribute. One is Patreon, Patreon/Sunday Lunch PM, and you can donate some money to the podcast that way, or you can jump along to my website, nigelcreaser.com, www.nigelcreaser.com, and click on the link to the shop, and in there you've got all my books that I've created in the varying different guises, a number of different ways you can grab a copy of those. And down the bottom I've got the my guests books, so everyone who's been on here, if they've had a book, I've got a link to their book in there, and Amazon give me a little bit back for when someone buys from them. But more importantly, if you come back next time and listen, I'll be delighted. So I'll leave you alone and let you get on with your day now. Thank you. Bye.
Well, it's goodbye from me, Nigel Creaser, and it's goodbye from him, the Sunday Lunch PM. Goodbye.